School of our Divine Infinite Being, Central Doctrine.
Cosmic horizon further defined in the unconscious and collective unconscious psyche of the multiverse. The cosmic horizon plays a crucial role in cosmology, physics, and our understanding of the universe. Understanding the framework behind this is so critical that although we have been diving into these theories, let's give further definition for the purpose of this chapter. The cosmic horizon is essentially a boundary that defines the limits of the observable universe. The universe has a finite age, around 13.8 billion years, meaning there is a maximum distance that light could have traveled since the Big Bang. This distance forms the cosmic horizon, beyond which light has not yet had time to reach us. Light travels at a finite speed, 300,000 kilometers per second. Because the universe has a finite age, there is a limit to how far light can have traveled in that time. This creates a spherical bubble around us that marks the furthest distance light has been able to travel, defining the cosmic horizon. The cosmic horizon delineates the observable universe. We can only observe events and objects for which light has had time to travel to Earth. Anything beyond this boundary is effectively invisible to us because the light from those regions has not yet reached us. The cosmic horizon is also related to the Hubble horizon, which is defined by the distance at which objects recede from us faster than the speed of light due to the universe's expansion. Light emitted by objects beyond this distance will never reach us because space between us and the object is expanding faster than the light can travel. One of the profound implications of modern physics is that the cosmic horizon acts as a holographic boundary for the observable universe. This idea comes from Susskind's holographic principle and the physics of black holes, and has been extended to the inside-out black hole cosmology as we have explained here in our central doctrine before. The holographic principle, first developed in the context of black holes, suggests that all the information contained within a volume of space is encoded on its boundary surface. When applied to the universe, this principle implies that all information about the physical processes occurring within the observable universe are encoded on the two-dimensional cosmic horizon. In cosmology, the cosmic horizon acts like a screen that encodes all the information about the particles, fields, and events occurring inside of it, just as a black hole's event horizon encodes information about everything that falls into it. The cosmic horizon encodes information about the entire observable universe. Light, or more generally electromagnetic radiation, is the primary means by which information about the universe is transmitted. Every photon of light traveling through the universe carries information about the physical state of the object that emitted it. This includes details about its composition, motion, temperature, and more. As light from stars, galaxies, and cosmic events travel through space, it accumulates and encodes information about the universe's structure and evolution. This is why earlier we spoke of the heliosphere causal diamond of our solar system, where a photon from your experiences encodes, therefore completing the irreversible arrow of time in decoherence. When light reaches the cosmic horizon, its information effectively becomes part of the boundary. While we, as observers, can still detect and interpret this light within the horizon, anything beyond it remains inaccessible, implicating that the boundary is the very storage limit of our observable universe. The information encoded through light at this infinitely hot cosmic horizon becomes data, aligning with the holographic principle's assertion that a boundary encodes a region's informational content. The cosmic horizon can be thought of as an information screen because it captures all the information carried by light and all other particles within the observable universe. Space within the observable universe becomes pixelized in terms of fundamental information units on the horizon. This comes from quantum gravity theories, which implies that space-time has a discrete structure. Each pixel on the cosmic horizon represents a quantum of information about what's happening within the universe, equal to how a hologram encodes a three-dimensional image on a two-dimensional surface. All information about the universe is encoded on the cosmic horizon, implicating that space-time within the horizon is an emergent phenomenon. In other words, the three-dimensional reality we experience arises from the encoded information on the two-dimensional cosmic boundary. This brings us to one of the core tenets of string theory, where space-time and gravity emerge from more fundamental information processes. Light, as a carrier of quantum information, becomes crucial in this context because it is the primary means by which the state of the universe is communicated and recorded on the cosmic horizon. By seeing the cosmic horizon as an information encoding boundary, string theorists have concluded that the universe itself is a holographic projection, as we have previously explained. In Hinduism, the horizon itself is the Akashic field, where all events in memory are stored, and the universe is Maya, or illusion, although a sacred illusion in the body of the great goddess. This we have detailed in the chapter above concerning the gravitational back reaction in Susskind's theories. Just as a hologram contains all the information needed to reconstruct a three-dimensional image on a two-dimensional surface, the cosmic horizon contains the information necessary to reconstruct the observable universe's three-dimensional structure. This is the same as what Plato had posited concerning the perfect eternal ideas at the boundary of the heavenly spheres, with us as their imperfect temporal projections. As we stated in the previous chapter, at the cosmic horizon, where expanding space begins traveling faster than light, past the observable universe, there is an echo or a ricochet back into the universe from every point of its spherical two-dimensional boundary. And as we have also explained previously, the singularity is found at every point in spacetime and is interwoven at every point of the cosmic horizon. It is the singularity that is the source of the holographic third-dimensional universe itself. The singularity, a point of infinite gravity and infinite mass or matter energy in the fourth dimension, has its center everywhere at every point. It is the archetype of matter and of the psyche, the supreme self and the monism of matter. The two poles being the waking conscious ego and the other pole the surrounding cosmic horizon, where all information of the entire past, present, and future of the universe is encoded.
Just as all particles of matter emanate from the singularity, which can therefore be understood as the archetype of matter, so too can we assume theoretically that all particular psyches emanate from the universal self. We can furthermore speculate that the archetype the psyche, the self, is equivalent to the archetype of matter, the singularity. In that case, neither the singularity nor the self is either purely psychic or purely physical, as they are one and the same origin and end point of both matter and psyche. Timothy Desmond, Psyche equals to Singularity, Jungian Psychology and Holographic String Theory.
Timothy Desmond equated these grand opposites of the self and cosmic horizon perfectly in his formula Psyche equals Singularity. He states, thus the ultimate archetype of the self, defined as the union of all pairs of opposites, can be further defined by breaking down each side of the ultimate equation of opposites, Psyche equals Singularity, into its own constituent pair of opposites. Self equals conscious-unconscious equals Singularity horizon. The overall implication of the parallels between Jung's and Susskind's theories is that the conscious aspect of the archetype of the self is the central singularity of the universe, while the unconscious aspect of the archetype of the self is the surrounding horizon. Our conscious minds at the apex of awareness is the singularity itself. It is the ego and the volitional will of the theurgist that aligns itself with the divine will of the cosmos. The unconscious, and through extension, that of the collective unconscious, Timothy connects to the cosmic horizon. The collective unconscious, the source of the eternal archetypes and forms, is entangled to the physical, material blueprints of the entire universe found smeared out across the entire spherical boundary of the cosmic horizon.
The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics and the multiverse of eternal inflation, the world is viewed as an unbounded collection of parallel universes. A view that has been expressed in the past by both of us is that there is no need to add an additional layer of parallelism to the multiverse in order to interpret quantum mechanics. To put it succinctly, the many worlds and the multiverse are the same thing. If the causal diamond histories are the many worlds, the multiverse is the many worlds pieced together in a single geometry. Leonard Susskind, Multiverse Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics.
Susskind states that the multiverse is the many worlds pieced together in a single geometry. meaning all causal diamond histories in their infinite branching altogether are an unbounded collection of parallel universes. So the multiverse of eternal inflation is an unlimited unity, and the unbounded many worlds are the limited, although infinite, expressions of this totality state. As we have stated previously in our central doctrine, going back to Iamblichus, there is the infinite unlimited, and the limited, which is also an expression of the unlimited in its total infinite variety. The unlimited, eternal inflation, the singularity, is without form, where the limited or the infinite expressions of the many worlds are decoherent causal diamonds, whose boundary is the unbounded collection of cosmic horizons, altogether across all the inside-out, black hole, nucleated bubble universes in the multiverse. Each of the bubble universes, including ours, not only radiate in on vibrating strings of energy to every point in space-time, they mirror to the spherical boundary of every causal diamond held within them. Our cosmic horizon, where the past, present, and future of the entire cosmos is eternally preserved, reflects in its totality to the spherical boundary of the Milky Way galaxy, which simultaneously reflects in its totality to the spherical boundary of the solar system's heliosphere, which simultaneously reflects in its totality onto the spherical boundary of the Earth, which simultaneously reflects in its totality to the spherical boundary of the self.
The ego, as a specific content of consciousness, is surrounded by a field of light that it cannot step beyond. This field represents the limit of its awareness. Outside this field lies the unconscious, the unknown. Carl Jung, Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche. The collective unconscious surrounds us on all sides. It is more like an atmosphere in which we live than something that is found in us. Carl Jung, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. It is as if we all live in our own private inside-out black hole. Leonard Susskind, The Black Hole War.
We have been discussing the cosmic horizon in many of the chapters above. If you look into it, the visible universe is 93 billion light-years across. Our cosmologists state that even if we tried, there is no way through the vastness of space that we could ever reach its boundary. As we have explained, it is speeding away in all directions due to the inflationary principle of the anti-gravitational force of the singularity, and at the boundary it is inflating faster than light. Even so, according to string theory, the spherical boundary where the past, present, and future of the universe is smeared out across the entirety of its infinitely hot two-dimensional plane is reflected in its entirety onto the spherical boundary that is just outside of your body. In fact, according to Susskind, your physical being is actually projecting in from this boundary at every point of its two-dimensional surface. And it is the filter, so to speak, of the infinite observables in the hat that are projecting in from the cosmic horizon itself. The observables in the hat are you, and the entire past, present, and future of the cosmos is surrounding you like an atmosphere, just as Jung says about the collective unconscious. As Susskind stated, it is as if we all live in our private inside-out black hole, as the material universe is holographically projected in its entirety onto the spherical boundary of the self. And if Psyche equals singularity, all of the infinite and eternal archetypes of the psyche within the collective unconscious are projecting in along with the material forms of matter. The cosmic horizon, the infinite realm of the gods, is not 93 billion light-years away. It is as close as the spherical boundary of the self. This boundary was well understood to exist by Iamblichus. This is the soul's spherical star vehicle, the ochêma. More on this in the following chapters. Now onto the many-world causal diamond branch histories in the process of decoherence. This will give us both a more micro and macro examination of the collective unconscious's relationship to the multiverse theory of quantum mechanics. In this process, the observer entangles to the branch history world line of the causal diamonds larger than us when having an experience. Although we can say it is of the Earth's branch history world line, as we have explained above, it is also simply within the branch history world line of the entire cosmos, rooted in the branch history world line of the cosmic horizon at the furthest boundary. These decoherent histories, of which one entangles to with the highest degree of freedom over the infinite number of possible branch histories, predetermined, pre-existing futures, from the point of view of the psyche, are guided by the archetypes of the collective unconscious into their final realization of form. I will unpack this for you.
The key insight is that macroscopic objects tend to quickly become entangled with a large number of environmental degrees of freedom. In practice, these degrees of freedom cannot be monitored by the observer. Whenever a subsystem is not monitored, all expectation values behave as if the remaining system is in a density matrix, obtained by a partial trace. Decoherence thus arises from the description of the world by an observer who has access only to a subsystem. To the extent that the environment is defined by what a given observer cannot measure in practice, decoherence is subjective. Leonard Susskind, Multiverse Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics.
In the multiverse interpretation, we are decohering from one branch history of the causal diamonds larger than us to another in a continuous stream of experience. We experience one over the potential of an infinite number of alternatives. The one we entangle to with the highest degree of freedom, being the most coherent, becomes the world we experience. All the other alternative worlds remain entangled to us in a density matrix, all of them together existing in a subsystem that Susskind says is not monitored by the observer. A degree of freedom is simply information, meaning the branch you entangle to and experience has the most information or highest degree of freedom. Having the most information, it is the most coherent out of all the alternative branches. This becomes your objective experience. In the many worlds interpretation, each branching history can be thought of as a degree of freedom because it corresponds to a possible outcome of a quantum event. All events are quantum events. Degrees of freedom are essentially different configurations of information within the multiverse. The more branching histories or degrees of freedom there are, the more information is present within the multiverse. All the alternative branches or degrees of freedom within your density matrix are still entangled to you at lesser degrees, making them less coherent than the one you experience. The other potential worlds are subjective to you in a sense because they are beyond your ability to reference. In their own worlds, they are still objective, and every action that could ever possibly be taken in any world is taken, along with the one you experience. They all exist objectively, but to your ability to reference, they are subjective and altogether unknowable, not unlike the objective psyche, the source of the collective unconscious.
The collective unconscious is anything but an encapsulated personal system. It is sheer objectivity, as wide as the world and as open as the world. There I am the object of every subject, in complete reversal of my ordinary consciousness. Carl Jung, On the Nature of the Psyche.
These degrees of freedom that are still entangled to us being infinitely vast, objective in nature, subjective to our experience, and unknowable, parallels the exact description Jung gives to the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is the psyche counterpart to the many worlds' total objective physical existence. We are still entangled to this web of infinite possible outcomes, and they altogether are massive in comparison to our immediate personal experience of one branch history over the rest. If we were able to stand back and view this objectively, seeing all the infinite potential branch histories entangled to our subsystem, the experience would be overwhelming. As Jung says of the collective unconscious, it is sheer objectivity, as wide as the world and as open as the world. There I am the object of every subject, in complete reversal of my ordinary consciousness.
We argue that causal diamonds provide a natural definition of environment in the multiverse, leading to an observer-independent notion of decoherent histories. Leonard Susskind, Multiverse Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics.
In the multiverse, all of the decoherent histories that you may experience are absolutely determined, projecting in from every point of the cosmic horizon, where the past, present, and future already exist. Susskind explains that causal diamonds provide a natural definition of environment in the multiverse, leading to an observer-independent notion of decoherent histories. Being observer-independent in the material sense, and of the largest objective nature being the entire multiverse. This is strikingly close to the same definition given by Jung from the position of the collective unconscious of the objective psyche. The collective unconscious is anything but an encapsulated personal system. It is sheer objectivity.
The collective unconscious comprises in itself the psychic life of our ancestors right back to the earliest beginnings. It is the matrix of all conscious psychic occurrences, and hence it exerts an influence that compromises the freedom of consciousness in the highest degree. Carl Jung, The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche.
Here, Jung references the archetypal patterns of the collective unconscious to compromise the freedom of consciousness in the highest degree. Just like the predetermined, pre-existing, decoherent histories restrict to the highest degree that which we will experience from one branch history to the next, entangling to the state with the highest degree of freedom when having an experience. Just as the multiverse interpretation posits the existence of an infinite number of possible entangled states, predetermined and predestined, the collective unconscious contains the enumerated potential archetypes that compromise the freedom of consciousness to the highest degree, lensing our experiences into definite forms of knowledge. The branch history world we entangle to with the highest degree of freedom is pre-existing, predetermined, and very precise. All other potential worlds we are entangled to with less degrees of freedom remain unknown and unmanifest to our conscious awareness. Here, as stated earlier in our work by Jung, if we call instinct refined, then the intuition which brings the instinct into play, in other words, the apprehension by means of the archetype, must be something incredibly precise. Here, the archetype ignites intuition and lenses our experiences through the precision of our instinctive natures. Together, the collective unconscious and the multiverse interpretation serve as a matrix for all psychic occurrences and guide us from one branch history experience to the next. The collective unconscious, entangled in the branch history of the entire cosmos, is the content of psyche of the multiverse. It is the collective unconscious that guides revelatory and divinatory knowledge into our objective direct experience. When we awaken to this awareness, we call it synchronicity. It is this realm of psyche that we access through theurgic rites. It is the source of all knowing, which is the counterpart to the physical all-being, total branch histories of the many worlds of string theory. Therefore, the multiverse interpretation and the concept of the collective unconscious share a common ground in the recognition of a vast, interconnected realm beyond individual consciousness. This fulfills Jung and Pauli's insight at a cosmological scale, as stated by Pauli. My personal opinion is that in the future, science reality will be neither mental or physical, but somehow both. The traces of entangled potential states, unmonitored by the observer, but present in the total density matrix of the individual subsystem, are imbued with the psyche of the collective unconscious. The archetypes generate intuitions, dreams, and synchronicity of symbolic imagery and meaning, interwoven with the dominant branch history we entangle to and experience objectively. It is the collective unconscious psyche counterpart that plays a central role in shaping conscious experiences. This unitary dual aspect event in the entangled branch history, imbued with archetypal meaning, ultimately guides the observer towards one experience over another as we branch from one parallel world to another. The human solar being, solar logos, and the luminous imaginal body.
Using reason alone, a man can never come to any true realization of what he is in himself. That is, he can never understand by the mind alone that he is an eternal spiritual entity, a brilliant star shining by the light of its own essence within the bespangled body of Nuit, the queen of infinite space. Israel Regardi, the tree of life. He who is in man, and he who is in the sun, both are one. Satapatha Brahmana 100.6.3.2 800 to 1000 BC.
I want to now take a prelude into the world of quantum biology. Up to this point, we have been educating the seeker successively into the multiverse, and we will return. But for our methods and training to be vividly applied, we must talk about one important objective fact. You are emitting light. We are a force of nature, and like the sun, a solar force. The ancient theurgists, throughout their literature, were obvious solar worshippers. Helios, the god of the sun, being central to Iamblichus and the later Roman Emperor Julian's Platonic liturgy. This is a common theme throughout the world from time immemorial, found in the mythos of every culture globally. The sun held a very specific place in the performance of ritual theurgy, as a catalyst, unveiling the inner solar radiance that illuminated the imaginal being. As stated in the quote from Gregory Shaw in the beginning of our Doctrine, the psychic organ that received the divine light was the pneumatic or luminous body. In his treatise on dreams, Synesius identified this body with the imagination and described it as the soul's first vehicle. It was within this imaginal body that the soul experienced its most profound illuminations. We will get to this further in this section. For now, let us continue into the world of quantum biology. Direct sunlight has a luminous efficacy of about 93 lumens per watt of radiant flux. This is multi-trillions of photons per millisecond. Oddly, the Earth's distance from the Sun is an average of 93 million miles, and the entire visible universe is 93 billion light-years across. 93 is a mystical number amongst thelemic occultists, and one they use for greetings and salutations, which existed before these measurements were even known. 50% of the Sun's energy reaching Earth is readmitted into greenhouse gases, conditioning our planet for the allowance of life. We get 90% of the Earth's warmth from the Sun. Our vegetation absorbs the Sun's light directly, converting it into oxygen, the very oxygen that all animal life on Earth can live no more than a few minutes without. All our food are converted forms of sunlight, whether we are eating plants or the animals that did. And due to new discoveries, we now know that our metabolizing biology, our physical bodies, are radiating light. We are luminescent. The physics of the biological human is a sun unto itself.
Theurgy, as it appears in the ancient evidence, attempts to bring the divine and mortal together, uniting the divine power with the human worshipper. This process of unification involves connecting elements of the cosmos at every level of being, from the lowest dregs of inanimate matter through the animal and human living creatures and up to the various kinds of divinities, including the very highest. Radcliffe Edmonds III, The Illuminations of Theurgy, Philosophy and Magic. First God and King, God and Principle of God, who derived self-begotten as a monad from the One. It is from this God, the Father of Essence and Principle of Intelligence, that matter is created. Iamblichus, De Mysteries. Iamblichus's portrayal of matter here is clearly positive. In the Iamblican world, sensible matter represented no subtraction of intelligible power, because it was derived directly from the highest intelligible being. The oristas duos, forms of Plato. To be in the body in a divine manner was to be out of the body, that is, free of the material restraints, and Iamblichus maintained that this paradox was integral to every theurgic experience. Gregory Shaw, Theurgy and the Soul, The Neoplatonism of Iamblichus.
The idea that our bodies are evil and something to escape is a dualistic disassociation that many magicians, philosophers, and religious communities have suffered from for thousands of years. Everyone from the Plotinus philosophers to the later Gnostics to many modern mainstream religions support this proclamation. this division of body and spirit. We follow Iamblichus, and his perspective, we will show, is backed by the most current sciences in quantum biology. The body truly is the temple of the highest. This life, where we are awake, aware, and capable, is the apex of our divine experience, and transcendence is continuous from this life unto the next. Spiritual practice as an escape from the body into the noetic realms is a proclamation of the weak, and simply a turning away from the difficulties and privileges that exist within the paradox of life. We are exalted in the infinite totality as we live and breathe, and altogether broken, aging, dying, on our way to renewal, to once again strive for our ultimate salvation in an endless progression. Religious thinking that we must escape this world and embrace some greater reality is a turning away from the responsibility of making this life a true vision of the divine. When you see the moment you are in as the apex of the current level of your progress and decide to love your body, this temple of the Holy Spirit, you align yourself with the non-dual landscape of Iamblichus theurgy. Let's give you insight as to why this should matter. Not only is the physical world, and thereby the material body, inseparable from the exalted nature of our infinite being, it is a brilliant wellspring of objective, measurable light. New York Times bestselling author and board-certified physician, Dr. Joseph Mercola, is known for his clear understanding of medicine, nutrition, and human biology. Millions visit his site, www.mercola.com, and he has been featured on ABC News, CNN, The Doctors, Oz, Fox News, and The Today Show. He stood as an advocate and voice for a breakthrough in quantum biology that is not well known outside of the bioinformatics medical industry. Integrative biophysics, a division of quantum biology, also called medical and biological physics, discovered that we are emitting billions of photons of light from the DNA of every cell in our bodies. This was initially named mitogenic radiation, as it was discovered that light was generated every time cells divide, mitogenesis. This even at the very moment of conception. When a sperm enters the ovum, a light spark, essentially a burst of zinc from an egg, visible under a microscope with a fluorescent probe, occurs upon fertilization when the egg's cortical vesicles release. The terminology for this light in the cells, as more research was done, changed to photonic emission, and it was discovered it dealt more with the activities of the cell's mitochondria and the DNA of the cell nucleus. This light, as measured by the German biophysicist Alexander Popp, is coherent or intelligent unto itself, and is theorized to account for the 100,000 plus chemical interactions that occur in each cell per second. Here is what Dr. Mercola published after researching Popp's academic papers and experiments.
Dr. Popp proved that light in your body is stored by and emitted from your DNA. The DNA inside each cell vibrates at a frequency of several billion hertz, which is unfortunately the same range at which modern cell phone communication systems also work. The vibration is created through the coil-like contraction and extension of your DNA, which occurs several billion times per second, and every time it contracts, it squeezes out one single biophoton, a light particle. That photon contains all the information on everything going on in your DNA at that moment. One single biophoton can carry more than 4 megabytes of information and relay this information to other biophotons it crosses in the biophoton field outside your body. All the photons that are emitted from your body communicate with each other in this highly structured light field that surrounds your body. Dr. Mercola's Natural Health Newsletter.
In 2003, biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp published the pioneering integrative biophysics, biophotonics. This was the effort of 14 quantum biologists from the International Institute of Biophysics, Germany. Very little of their work was published in the United States, and when I bought my copy, there were only 20,000 copies sold in the USA, mostly to medical field enthusiasts and professionals. Alexander Popp's son, Jürgen Popp, continued his father's legacy, moving primarily into the medical industry with these findings to serve this audience. They continued to publish, with dozens more biomedical engineers and quantum biologists focused on the development of medical equipment with these values. The field of biomedical engineering is close to my heart, as my engineering company is in this industry. You can see my professional work here, www.betoparedes.com. You are emitting light that is tied to the very record of your human design, your DNA. This light maintains a continual record of everything happening in the cell, which then broadcasts to all the other billions upon billions of photons you continue to emit from the over 30 trillion cells you have in your body. This communicates just outside the body in a light field most are familiar with. The photonic field is part of the bioelectromagnetic field, which is a rich current field of research for biophysicists and medical device engineers alike. This field of light is hyper-intelligent, containing all of the information from every single cell's activities and all their changes from one metabolizing moment to the next. This is your objective, radiant being within, your solar force, found rooted in the physical being, emitted from the center nucleus of every cell's metabolizing life force activity. This field outside of your body, as well as the same field around all metabolizing life, can be seen, and I teach this to audiences when I'm out speaking. Near the end of our class, I will have each student pair up with another for the exercise. Most of my students will see it within the time frame using this technique, and I have had several classes where 100% of the students were able to see it. A well-known metaphysical description of this field has been termed the aura. Whatever the properties, it is easy enough to actually see with the naked eye. If we ever meet in person, I will show how you can see it in a simple 10-minute exercise. Although there is a large variance in the description and experience of inner light amongst the world's religious cultures, there is undoubted agreement that this inner light exists. From the indigenous shamanic tribes to the most pious of Catholic priests. In the mystery schools, Western and Eastern mysticism, and the alternative healing disciplines, this inner light has been previously named. Qi may be one of the most direct correlations as used by the Taoist practitioners. There are many others, such as prana, or the subtle body, to the Eastern guru. The myriad mystery schools throughout the ages always explain this inner light, interwoven with their concept of secret knowledge and illumination. There is an inner intelligence, a logos, some form of occult power related to experiencing this inner light that always leads to a profound understanding. With these breakthroughs in quantum biology, it is surprising that the atheist communities continue to argue that we do not have a spirit within. Not only are we generating a field of light, it is objective and has a measurable physical property. This objective field of light is the spiritual visual tuning mechanism in theurgic ritual praxis, aligned with the sonorous sound of the invocations, also acting in tandem as the audible aspect or tuning frequency.
This light field also regulates the activity of your metabolic enzymes. The information transfer on biophotons is bidirectional, which means your DNA sends information out on a photon, and on the same photon, the information of all the biophotons from your body is broadcast back to your cells and to your tubulin, which are light-conductive molecules in your connective tissue. Cells have an average of 100,000 interactions per second. The tubulin, in turn, receives the information carrying light impulse and conducts it at the speed of light throughout your body, where it is translated inside each cell into activating or inactivating certain metabolic enzymes. Dr. Mercola's Natural Health Newsletter.
The biophysicist Dr. James L. Oshman had this to say about this theory of communication at the speed of light in the cells. This theory was founded on discoveries in cell biology and biophysics revealing that organisms have a continuous living matrix, or ground regulation system, that reaches into every part of the body, including every cell and nucleus. The connective tissue and its extensions into every cell and nucleus, The living matrix is the largest and most pervasive organ system in the body because it is the material that all other organ systems are made of. Further explained by Dr. Oshman, this living matrix, also known as the extracellular matrix, abbreviated ECM, connected to every cell and nucleus, acts like a biophotonic crystal in our body, communicating information from your DNA to its central system at the speed of light throughout every part of your body. This level of genuine genius commanded by this field is almost incalculable. 100,000 chemical interactions per cell per second across 30 trillion cells is 3 quintillion total interactions per second. Written out, this number looks like this. The number 3 followed by 18 zeros. This field that communicates at the speed of light, commanding 100,000 chemical interactions a second across 30+ trillion cells, is your physical and real solar force. This is not metaphysics. This is not a subtle body. This is an objective physical reality. You are a wellspring of light, and this objective source of light is the most sacred key to the theurgist. It is the mitochondria that is most responsible for the metabolizing stimulation of intracellular biophotonic emission. Mitochondria are membrane-bound organelles, subcellular structures with specialized functions, found in the cytoplasm, cell membrane, of nearly all eukaryotic cells. Human cells are 100% eukaryotic. They are often referred to as the powerhouses of the cell because their primary function is to generate adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the cell's main energy-carrying molecule. It is at the point of oxidative phosphorylation, just as energy is converted, when the mitochondria generates the ATP molecule, that the biophoton is generated and released from the DNA. In this process, electrons are transferred along the electron transport chain in the inner mitochondrial membrane. This transfer is coupled with the pumping of protons from the mitochondrial matrix, its central inner system, to the inner membrane space, creating a proton gradient, or proton motive force. This gradient creates a difference in proton concentration and electrical potential across the inner mitochondrial membrane. The inner membrane contains the protein complexes of the electron transport chain and the ATP synthase, an enzyme that synthesizes ATP, the energy-carrying molecule. The space between the outer and inner membranes helps maintain the proton gradient. Protons flow back into the mitochondrial matrix through the ATP synthase, driving the production of ATP, which provides energy for cellular functions. This stimulates DNA coiling, which thereby records all this activity onto the biophoton that is released into the greater extracellular matrix, the crystal of the body that all of the biophotons travel on.
The cells in your body are more than individual units. They are part of a community. They all function together as a society. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. If the flesh came into being because of spirit, it is a wonder. But if spirit came into being because of the body, it is a wonder of wonders. Gospel of Thomas.
Our biology is not the enemy of the spirit. It is generating and manifesting into physical existence its very source code. Bruce Lipton, a famous speaker, author, and biologist, made the point that the human is really just a gigantic complex cell. We are made up of trillions of cells, but they, in harmony with each other, are the community of the self-unity of the human form. Like this, we are part of the universal form of the totality state, like a cell inside a cosmic body. Alfred North Whitehead famously equated the universe to an organism, where everything is interconnected and interdependent, alive and evolving through time. This view opposes the mechanistic view, which treats the universe as a machine made up of separate parts. Although we are not exactly equal to a single cell, just like a human is not exactly equal to the solar system, there should be correlations when applying the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. Looking to our greater causal diamond heliosphere, as an example, we are a personal cosmos, like the solar system, and our world revolves around us like the planets do the solar center. The planets influence the forces of human generative existence, and through their astrological and archetypal natures, they impact our experiences. There are many more correlations and direct, interdependent conditions of one to the solar system, but this is certainly limited. Just like the total complexity of the solar system cannot be explained from the human perspective, the human complexity cannot be explained in full from the level of the cell, but striking correlations can be drawn. Let's review this relationship as a mirror into the microcosm of the cell from the macrocosm of the human form, the self, as a practicing theurgist in ritual. Like the mitochondria, with its matrix, its central inner system, we have our extracellular matrix, the human crystal that extends into every cell and nucleus, our central system of biophotonic expression. The biophotonic field of light is generated by the activity of this powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria, across trillions of cells within the human macrocosm. The theurgist, like the mitochondria, especially when engaged in ritual, is a force of nature and directly engages an activating principle. Aligned with the will of the cosmos, one triggers, stimulates, and activates intuitive sympathies through the invocation of divine energies, the gods, and the eternal archetypes and forms.
The vehicle of the soul, ochêma, is of a luminous and star-like nature, and it is through this vehicle that the soul ascends to the divine realm and comes into contact with the gods. Iamblichus, De Mysteries.
Like the mitochondria, stimulating a transfer of electrons coupled with the pumping of protons from the mitochondrial matrix, its central inner system, in the inner membrane space, creating a proton gradient or proton motive force. The theurgist has a membrane, so to speak, the spherical star vehicle, the ochêma just outside the body, the two-dimensional spherical plane of string theory, which, as we have explained, reflects the greatest boundary of the cosmic horizon in its totality. The theurgist circulates divine light out and through this spherical self-horizon of the ochêma, stimulating its vibrancy and potency, which then circulates back in and through to the theurgist. This continual process creates a unitary link between the theurgist's inner light and the ochêma's resonant presence. This is almost the exact same process that we see in the cell. I quote from above. The proton gradient creates a difference in proton concentration and electrical potential across the inner mitochondrial membrane. Protons flow back into the mitochondrial matrix, driving the synthesis and conversion of this flow into the ATP energy molecule, which stimulates the metabolizing effects of the overall cellular structure.
The gods, according to Iamblichus, manifest through the ochêma, the luminous vehicle of the soul. It is this vehicle that mediates between the divine and the human, allowing the descent of divine powers into the material world during theurgical rituals. Gregory Shaw, Theurgy and the Soul. The Neoplatonism of Iamblichus.
Like it is said of the cell's inner membrane, therein exists an enzyme that catalyzes the creation of the ATP energy molecule, which then flows back into the mitochondria central matrix. The ochêma holds the spiritual enzyme, so to speak, of the eternal archetypes and forms that are reflected in from the cosmic horizon. Iamblichus says of the ochêma that it is the vehicle that mediates between the divine and human realms. It is the catalyst, and through empowering and circulating with the ochêma, the gods manifest within the consciousness of the theurgist. Now, of course, the worlds of cellular metabolism and that of theurgic union are as different in their total state as an atom is from the sun, but you can see the correlations here are quite striking, and they most certainly should exist, as every cell is a microcosm of the total macrohuman form. If you think about the body at the scale of its physical processes, we have incredible systems within systems all operating together. The circulatory system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, the digestive system, the respiratory system, the sensory system, and there are many more. These systems are regulated in their activities through a constant reference to the body's homeostasis. Homeostasis is like your body's way of keeping everything in balance so you stay healthy, no matter what's happening around you. Think of it as your body's internal thermostat and maintenance system. For example, when you get too hot, your body starts to sweat to cool you down, and when you get too cold, you might start shivering to warm up. This constant adjustment helps keep your body temperature just right. Similarly, if your blood sugar levels get too high after eating, your body releases insulin to bring them back to normal. These automatic responses happen without you even thinking about them, all to keep things like temperature, pH levels, and nutrient levels stable. This balance is crucial because if things get too far out of whack, it can lead to illness. So homeostasis is essentially your body's way of ensuring everything runs smoothly, keeping you healthy and functioning properly. As we have explained above, the human crystal, the extracellular matrix that reaches into every cell and nucleus, maintains the fundamental cellular ground state that all other tissues and organs in the body are made of. This extracellular organ is the largest in the body and contributes to the maintenance of tissue homeostasis by supporting the continuous turnover of cells. It provides the necessary signals for the removal of old or damaged cells and the replacement with new ones. In response to injury, the ECM facilitates tissue repair and regeneration by supporting the migration and proliferation of progenitor cells to the site of damage. Progenitor cells are those that act somewhat like stem cells, where they can change into whatever tissue is necessary in repair, becoming a lung cell here or a liver cell there. The ECM provides a physical scaffold that supports the three-dimensional architecture of tissues and organs. This structure is crucial for maintaining the shape and integrity of organs as they grow. The ECM imparts mechanical strength and elasticity to tissues, allowing them to withstand physical stresses and strains. This is particularly important in organs like the skin, heart, and lungs. ECM proteins such as collagen, laminin, and fibronectin provide binding sites for cell surface receptors. These interactions are vital for cell adhesion, migration, and organization within tissues. The ECM influences cell behavior by interacting with cell surface receptors to activate intracellular signaling pathways. These signals can regulate cell proliferation, differentiation, and survival. The ECM binds and sequesters growth factors and cytokines, creating a reservoir of signaling molecules that can be released in a controlled manner to regulate cell behavior. This is important for processes like wound healing and tissue regeneration. It is this healing factor in the process of the overall homeostasis of the human system, driven by the extracellular matrix, that is the physiological link for the theurgist. Through subtle internal concentration on this living crystal that runs throughout the body and into every cell and nucleus, one comes to experience the ground state, generative nature of the extracellular matrix. This is not unlike concentrating on the beating heart, or internally identifying where your kidneys are in your body, or sensing the circulation of the bloodstream. By using body-focused intuition, this experience comes quite naturally, and really does not take very long to master. Through concentrating to feel your extracellular matrix throughout your entire physical being, you come into direct contact with the root generative physical properties that heal and repair the body. This is the very ground state of the physical being, whose purpose is structure, repair, and the regulation of cell behavior. Intuiting the extracellular matrix within the body brings us into a direct encounter with the body of light running through its crystal-like conductive structure.
All matter is a condensation of light into patterns, moving back and forth at average speeds, which are less than the speed of light. You could say that, when we come to light, we are coming to the fundamental activity, in which existence has its ground, or at least coming close to it. David Bohm, The Undivided Universe, an ontological interpretation of quantum theory.
As explained, it is within the extracellular matrix that light travels through the body and into the biophotonic field around it. Like the extracellular matrix it passes through, the field of biophotonic emission in total is just one system, one field, and altogether one being. As stated by Dr. McCullough's newsletter above, this light field also regulates the activity of your metabolic enzymes. The information transfer on biophotons is bidirectional, which means your DNA sends information out on a photon, and then on the same photon, the information of all the biophotons from your body is broadcast back to your cells. And continuing, this transmission occurs through the tubulin, which are light conductive molecules in your connective tissue. The tubulin, in turn, receives the information carrying light impulse and conducts it at the speed of light throughout your body, where it is translated inside each cell into activating or inactivating certain metabolic enzymes. The extracellular matrix and the biophotonic being of light within are one system, not two. As you have been learning in so many ways, they are responsible for the exact same criteria, where the biophotonic field is the communication mechanism and the extracellular matrix is the response mechanism. Together they supply the bidirectional information state of the body and the protocellular ground for the overall homeostasis of the entire human system. When you are in meditation or ritual, focused on intuiting, feeling, experiencing the generative ground state of the extracellular matrix, an opportunity of awareness opens for encountering the body of light that permeates the same space. When you come into contact consciously with the body of light, many times it can be a bit of a shock, and a true encounter is impossible to just write off as a delusion. The body of light is always there, but operates much like our autonomic processes, such as the autonomic nervous system, of which we normally remain unaware. When one purposely focuses their awareness on this largest organ, the extracellular matrix, and the generative wellspring of light, illuminating its crystal-like structure, one will catch abstractions of a dual-natured, imaginal physical luminous presence. This can be very difficult to differentiate at first, as it tends to be fleeting, like a dream can be when you first awake in the morning. Experiencing something that you are not sure is in your environment or in your imagination is one of the signs of a beginning encounter and awareness of the body of light. The question comes in, where did I see this? Was it in my environment or was it purely in my imagination? When one engages in ritual, after several successive experiences, the body of light becomes luminous and continuous. This being both externally as we become aware of the biophotonic field and internally as a luminous divine visionary state. Through continued practice, one not only becomes aware of the body of light, but becomes aware from the body of light. After all, it is you, and it is the very centrality of communication throughout your entire human design, from your brain cells to your heart cells, to every cell in every system in your body. And once you become aware from it, you step out of the bounds of space and time. This is ultimately the time of Aeon, the timeless space of ritual theurgy, the vertical transcendent space of eternal archetypes and forms, where the gods, wholes beyond comprehension, take possession of the conscious awareness of the theurgist.
A photon is a timeless object. From the photon's perspective, no time elapses between emission and absorption. Richard Muller. Now, the physics of time. A photon doesn't experience any passage of time between when it's emitted and when it's absorbed. Brian Greene. The fabric of the cosmos. Space, time, and the texture of reality.
Light does not experience time, remains at a constant speed, and nothing inside of space can travel faster. It is the limit. Because it does not experience time, there is no concept of past, present, or future from light's point of view. You are emanating billions upon billions of photons a second, and as explained, they are together just one field. You are a solar radiance, objectively, and once self-identified, the inner subjective experience of this field is the illumination of the imaginal body. Within these illuminations, once identified fully with the body of light, one experiences eternal and infinite states, principles, and union with the divine. This imaginal aspect of the body of light, for the thelemic magus and much of the Western practicing occultists, is termed the astral body. This term is fine to use, but has been hijacked to mean anything one would like it to mean, and has many poorly described manifestations. The idea of astral flight has come to mean any out-of-body experience and any flight of the imagination as such. Experience of the imaginal body, the luminous subjective-objective dual experience of the body of light, is something much more akin to the practices of transcendence and liberation found in the philosophical theurgy of the West and the tantric kundalini practices of the East. In stating that the theurgist experiences from their body of light and enters a timeless, spaceless realm of experience, this is the same that a yoga practitioner, a Taoist meditator, or even an Eastern Orthodox Christian experiences in moments of deep silent concentration and meditation, where they enter mystical experiences and union with the divine. Samadhi, the state of ultimate bliss, has always been described by Eastern yogis as a timeless place, and here the yogi is quite literally outside of time, experiencing as their body of light. In union with the divine, theosis, an Eastern Orthodox practitioner removes everything from themselves and their mind that is not God. God is timeless, eternal, and infinite, which, when removing all but these predicates of the divine, you are left with the very source of all that was removed. As stated by Boehm above, you could say that when we come to light, we are coming to the fundamental activity in which existence has its ground. In theosis, they say that God exists in the infinite darkness, and by contrast, it is the infinite light, termed the Ein Sof Or by the Kabbalists, that exists in this infinite nothingness, that the Kabbalists also call the Ein, equating it with the highest God.
No matter how you measure it, the speed of light is always the same. Einstein's crucial breakthrough about the nature of light, made in 1905, can be summed up in a deceptively simple statement. The speed of light is constant. American Museum of Natural History.
The theurgist, experiencing from the body of light, becomes identified with a massless, timeless space, which, being outside of time, is eternal and infinite in nature. The subjective inner illumination from this identification shines upon the visionary landscape of the imagination as the sun shines forth in its might upon the earth. When one switches from a subjective, metaphysical inner light to an objective, physical property of a true existing light body, one gains a certain stability. Light, with its constant, timeless, massless source, stands outside of space-time, and when personally identified, so does the theurgist. Your imagination, the world of symbols, dreams, and creativity is a product of our relationship to the luminous body of light, and when properly identified, we move from a limited knowing underpinned by chronos, chronological time, into the world of aeon, the timeless, infinite, eternal experience.
Photogogia somehow illuminates with divine light, the astral and luminous vehicle of the soul, from which divine visions, set in motion by the gods, take possession of our imaginative power. Iamblichus, De Mysteriis.
The term photogogia is derived from Greek, where photo means light, and agogia means leading or bringing. Therefore, photogogia is interpreted as leading by light or guidance through light. This term was used in specific philosophical and poetic contexts to describe the concept of enlightenment, guidance, or influence through the process of illumination. In simple, without the illumination of light, our imagination remains completely empty of form. Try to imagine sitting by a beautiful lake, lots of birds singing, the sun is rising. Now, remembering that black and white are also colors, take all of the color out of this scene in your mind. What are you left with? Nothing. Color is reflected light. The content of our imaginations are reflected light to the eye of consciousness, our ego. This inner vision, for the theurgist in ritual, identified with the objective light body, changes from an illusory subjective recall of the limited space-time third-dimensional forms to an experience of the illuminated infinite archetypes and forms. As stated by Shaw in the beginning of our doctrine, the imaginal body, however, should not be confused with ordinary imagination. Iamblichus distinguished not only the God-sent dreams from the human, but also the divine appearances given by the gods from the images concocted by man. The former possessed transformative power, while the latter were merely reflections of embodied life. When one is identified with this timeless, spaceless realm of objective illumination, the imaginal being reveals the unlimited counterparts to the limited, manifested forms in reality. For example, beauty, one of the highest Platonic forms, in its limited sensibility is reflected in all that we find beautiful in life. All that is beautiful takes a multiplicity of form from the unlimited and unified form of beauty itself. When invoking the goddess Aphrodite, we associate her with the most beautiful female form, behind which remains hidden the infinite direct experience of beauty's eternal presence. Through associating all that we experience as beauty with the goddess, we unify within the limited multiplicity of form a relationship to her manifest nature in the world, binding it all together in our conscious awareness as one eternal being, Aphrodite. Gathering all of this together, including other objects associated with Aphrodite, such as stones, incense, and herbs, then standing in ritual, we banish, invoke, and purify in preparation for direct identification as the objective body of light. We then, invoking Aphrodite, peer into the illuminated, infinite form of beauty itself in an encounter with the eternal. In this timeless, massless space of illumination, one breaks the bonds of time and space, dividing the internal natures of the eternal archetypes, who in their totality are expressions of the ultimate self-God archetype, our divine infinite being. Through identifying with the body of light, one gains a lensing of conscious awareness. Like a tuning instrument aligned with the sonorous voice of invocation, the theurgist, identified with the body of light, embodies the wholes beyond comprehension, sparks from the infinite fire, in an ongoing relationship with knowledge and truth.